Awesome. Okay, so oh, hold on a second. Thank you so much for having me here, Culver City Democratic Club. I really appreciate this time. I'm going to drop my website in the chat so you can have something to look at while I'm speaking. But it's an honor to be here. Thank you for supporting great candidates. I know y'all got Isaac Bryan and Holly Mitchell elected, and that's really important. I supported both of those candidates. So so thank you. Let's see, where should I start? So let me tell you just a little bit about my story. I know some of you know me better than others. But who am I? So I am an educator from Watts. I'm a mother to a son with special needs. I'm an immigrant and I'm an organizer. The reason I'm running is because it's because of the experiences I've had as an immigrant, as a teacher, as an environmental justice advocate, especially. So for me, it really started in the places where, there weren't really cameras, right? Like a lot of people, when they look at my race, like, when I first started, right, I wasn't really known across the district because a lot of my work was not where there were cameras, right? They were with my students really late at night, whether I was doing weekend test prep with them, whether I was with the robotics team I founded till 9 or 10 or 11 coding, taking them to competitions. But that was my work. It was with the students, it was with the community, and I loved it. It was the best part of my life. And I always tell people I really fell in love with my students and the community, right? And just like when we love a family member, when we have a friend that we love, when you see injustice, when they're hurt, you want to do everything. You would even maybe risk your own life, right, to make a better life or to do whatever you can. And that's really what happened to me. I got so invested in my students in their families. And I got upset when I saw that, there weren't enough resources, or when I needed more funding, when my robotics team needed a space, we weren't able to get a space. And I would see other schools, like where my husband mentors, have all of these resources in different communities. And it's just unjust and unethical in the richest state in the nation that we can't take care of our youth, right? It's just, that's all I'll say, it's unjust. And so it started for me there, but that didn't quite push me out of the classroom. I just worked really hard locally to try to I brought an environmental studies class to my school. I try to bring project-based learning, try to work on grants to bring that. I was successful in some aspects, but not in others because of the lack of funding. And so I eventually, when I started my environmental studies class, and I taught chemistry as well, my lessons were about bringing the community into the classroom, and vice versa. I would take my students with me out in the community all the time as well. And we learned about, our school and basically the toxic environment in Watts in terms of the lead toxicity that the school was built on, the projects, that had unclean environments and toxic water. And it really, I naturally just kind of became an organizer after that. I had to, right? When you find out, when you have a lot of love for the community, when your own students are living and breathing this air and drinking this water, like of course, why wouldn't you do something about it? So I started going to meetings. I became part of this organization called Watts Rising, which is a Strategic Growth Council grant. I was I'm still on the community advisory board. So that was my first sort of step into interacting with elected officials and really advocating with the community. I myself live in Carson. I've lived in Carson. Now I live in the unincorporated part of Gardena, but I lived in Carson for over 10 years, which is another frontline community. I was a mile from a refinery. So this has been an issue like all across my district in terms of the environmental toxicity, especially. And so in my organizing with the community, I wanted to do more because it was clear and easy for me to see that Watts, Compton, Wilmington has been fighting for these same issues for decades, right? Whether it's that they want real public safety or whether it's environmental justice or clean water. And so for me, that's why I applied to be commissioner to the current incumbent. And I was trying to work with him to make changes, which is why I found out his record, and that's what really, literally broke my heart because basically all the things that I was advocating for, all the things that the community was fighting for, from environmental justice, to wanting real public safety, to wanting to solve homelessness. I just didn't see action there, right? And that's why I really stepped into the race. And I knew I had to do it the right way. So when I stepped into the race, I did it not taking any corporate money. I did it, not taking any police money. none of it. So I'm an unbought and unbossed candidate, and we built a real movement. We got almost 60,000 votes. We earned the endorsement of Senator Bernie Sanders, Sierra Club, Sunrise Movement, most of the local Democratic clubs in our district. And we ran a campaign in COVID, and we raised money, and we were able to send out mail. So we really got our name and our message out there. And it was the first time this sort of message was really brought to South LA, which has had, not always the best representation in terms of a lot of the issues I talked about. And so when I didn't win my race, actually, it was pretty soon after. I didn't wait and think about what I was going to do. I knew I had started a movement, and I knew that the community was receptive to the message, and I knew I couldn't give up. And so I did it again, but I did it better. So I started fundraising early. I started my ground game early because we had a vaccine. I got a lot of endorsements early. So we basically built up stronger. We built the name recognition. And at this point, we've knocked on over 20,000 doors. We've raised almost $270,000. This is like 5 times more than we had last time. We've gotten the endorsement of Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, Sunrise, California Working Families Party, the Long Beach Young Democrats, the Chicano Latino Democratic Club, and a whole host of other groups. I'll put them in, I'll put my stuff in the chat. But here's where I'm really running, right? I'll just kind of end with this and then go to some questions. So for me, what South LA and what our I'll start with my district needs, right, is that we've had a third of the refineries. I had 5 police shootings happen within the span of my campaign. Only half of the people in my district have even high school degrees. So it's a very working class district, and there's systemic issues happening. So what I would offer is an intersectional sort of leadership. I am not someone that's going to rank issues and say, the environment doesn't matter. I'm just going to focus on public safety. Tenants' rights don't matter, but homeowners matter. No, all of it matters. We need to take care of our homeowners, our renters, our environmental justice communities, our students, our youth. It's not radical to be an intersectional leader, and that's what the type of lens I offer. And so if you look at my website, I talk about expanding our democracy, expanding voting rights. I talk about a policy of people over profits, of getting foreign money, getting corporate money out of our elections, ranked choice voting, letting residents vote in local elections, even if they don't have their citizenship, right? We have to really change the way we think about who can participate in our democracy, who can run, and what sorts of people will get in office to really get the sort of representative leadership that we need. I would be the first Muslim ever elected, the first South Asian woman. I would be the only teacher in the state assembly. And that's the type of leadership I would offer. Unfortunately, the leadership there right now has gotten failing Sierra Club report cards, has gotten really bad courage scores. And what I would offer is I would be a champion for working families. And so I'm happy to take questions. I'm sure there's many questions and thoughts out there. So I'm an open book, so ask me anything.
Fantastic. So members, please raise your Zoom hands. Okay, Disa, go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. It's so encouraging to know that you're running. I've been reading about you, and I'm amazed to learn that there are no teachers currently serving in the legislature. That's appalling. So thank you for being a representative of that incredibly important group of people who contribute to our society. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the way you'll work to be effective. It's so hard sometimes in Sacramento to, even though it shouldn't be so incredible, but really what you're offering, to be a truly intersectional leader, that is not the norm. And I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about how you'll be able to work with other members of the legislature to actually get legislation passed.
Yeah, that's a good question. Disa, am I saying your name right? Disa, okay, thank you. Yeah, what I would say is when you say that is we have great intersectional leaders there already. I think of Isaac Bryan, I think of Alex Lee, Ash Kalra, Laura Friedman, right? And so what I see is that, well, I'll start with this and I'll say how I would also add to that, right? What unique things I would bring to that. So what I see is twofold, right? I don't see enough intersectional leaders on there. So I see folks, a lot of the folks that I know you support, your club supports, right? it's not easy to get those bills past committee or passed on the floor, right? Because there's simply not enough for those legislators. That's one issue. But the other issue is, you're right, like how do you build those coalitions, right? So one thing I would offer is, I don't discount my experience as a mother to a son with autism, right? As a teacher, working with students who've gone through generational trauma. So I've had like restorative justice training. I've had learned how to listen more than I speak and how to actively listen. And I don't like underscore like those skills, right? Because they are missing. If you look at the political climate right now, there's a lot of name calling, there's a lot of labeling happening, even amongst progressives, right? There's a lot of saying, if I'm a progressive, I'm not going to talk to, I'm not going to talk to a moderator, I'm not going to talk. I would, that's something I would never do. So the way I would approach it, and I'll start with like, I'll talk about environmental justice, because I know that's been an issue up there, that like, we haven't been able to get bills passed. And so it's been, yes, the corporations, the building trades, right? And things like that. So what I would do is, I would really make sure that everyone is at the table from the beginning, right? So even in my campaign now, like it's no secret that like, I'm running against an incumbent Democrat, right? I couldn't get like a lot of like I didn't get those building trade like endorsements, right? But that's okay. But see, what I did was I still met with them. Like, even though I knew, I still met with them. I still listened. I still made sure I knew their needs. And I didn't, push an like a Green New Deal agenda down their throat, like right away, right? Like I listened to what their concerns were. I know some of their fears of losing their jobs. And so that's what's important, Disa, is that we need to bring everyone to the table really early, and even people that think differently than you, right? And so that's the sort of leadership I'll offer. And I do think we do need more women in Sacramento, because I think as women, especially as women of color, as teachers with all these different experiences, whether they're in the healthcare field, we need people from these different experiences, because we bring different communication skills, different soft skills, right? And so that's what I would offer, is I would bring everyone to the table. I would listen more than I speak. One thing that really inspires me, I remember I read Ilhan Omar's book, is that she's in a state, Minnesota, that isn't as blue as our state, but she was trying to get college access, for example, lower the cost of tuition. And she said that she got that through, but it was attached to a Republican bill, and she was able to still get it through. And because what mattered to her was the purpose of what she was doing more than her name on a bill. That's the sort of leader I want to be, and I would be. I'm not going up there to say, Fatima is so great, look what Fatima did. I'm going up there, I don't care if I'm in the background, and I'm the one whipping votes, right? For Alex Lee, for Laura, for Isaac. I will do the quiet work while someone else takes the recognition. And maybe that's because I'm a woman of color. Maybe that's because I've been used to doing that, but I'm okay with that, because and that's why I'll be different, Disa. I'm not about my title or my name. I'm about doing the hard work behind the scenes when the cameras aren't on. That's what I've always done. Something my opponent tells me is like, where was Fatima? Well, I haven't taken a typical pathway up to running. I haven't. But what is a typical pathway? Like, have people that have taken typical pathways always stood for us? They have not. Sometimes it's people that have been behind the scenes, that have been doing the work that only their families know, or their people they're affecting know, right? And so that's the sort of leadership I will offer, not to necessarily I will have my name, of course, on major bills, because I want to push certain legislation. But even if it's not, even if my name's not the prime author on the bill, I don't mind staying up late, whipping votes, having those meetings, going to those assembly people's district and meeting with them there, right? And I also wanted to say, just to end with this, my work in educational equity is actually featured in a documentary called More Than Robots, something that I didn't even ask for, because of the great work that my robotics team did, the team that I founded, and that we do a lot of outreach. The media just caught on. And so our team is featured in that documentary. So if you have Disney Plus, you can see the sort of hustle I do. And I never thought I'd get recognition for it, but it's great. I'm glad that my students are getting that recognition.
Thank you so very much. It's really so encouraging to hear you and see you. Thank you.
Okay, Danny Young, please go ahead.
Hi, Fatima. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I didn't know you were going to be here. I didn't come prepared for questions or anything, but I just wanted to say that I'm just really impressed and inspired by what you're doing. And I think it's so cool that people like you are able to run and not take any corporate money and just be completely grassroots funded. I've looked at your platform and stuff, and it's awesome. I love that the DSA has endorsed you. I'm like 100% behind you. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Oh my gosh, Danny, thank you. Thank you for those kind words. I mean, I appreciate it. And it means a lot because every day I have to do a lot of call time to raise money, right? Because I don't take those corporate funds, but I feel the power of a movement every day. And sometimes I call donors that have given and they say, Fatima, I'll donate. And you can, I said, no, but how are you doing? Like what issues? Let's talk about the issues you care about. What's your family going through, right? I value you, Danny, and everyone here that has found inspiration in our movement, because I'm nothing without all of you. I really am not. I'm nothing. Like I wouldn't have the funds I have. I wouldn't have the volunteers or be able to reach the voters, because when you're not a corporate free candidate, what matters is the volunteers you get for the doors. What matters is the donations you get in to send out mailers. And because of that, my average donation is actually under 100, but I'm able to send out like 3 to 4 mailers in the primary and do digital ads. And that's literally run by all of you and all the people that have supported me. I know Paulette asked a question. Paulette, so we don't actually have Culver City in our district, but I know some members of your club and they wanted me to come and share my campaign. I want to say though, I am fighting for Culver City. Something I'd love to hear, Jeff, if we have a minute, is some of the top issues happening in the city. I'm good friends with Daniel Lee, so I do know some of those issues, and Isaac as well. But I want to tell you, everyone here in this club, even if you're not in my district, my campaign's not just for my district. We know the legislature, all the representatives matter. I'm not running to just to solve homelessness in my district. I'm not running just for environmental justice in my district. I'm running for all of you, right? These borders are man-made, right? These issues affect all of us. And I'm running because of the frustration of the lack of leadership in Sacramento and not getting an environmental bill passed since 2018 and not being able to permanently end the death penalty, overturn Costa-Hawkins and Ellis. Like, I'm running for all of you. So I want you to know that. Exactly, Leah, I agree.
Thanks so much. Paulette, was that your question just about the district? Okay, great, thanks. So, yeah, we have one more candidate to get on. So as much as, you know, I'd like to talk about Culver City with you, we'll have to do it some other time. So thank you again for coming, and everyone can see your information. And as I said at the start of the meeting, this is the first time we are considering endorsing candidates outside of Culver City. So there will be an online vote after the meeting, and if you get above 60%, whoever gets above 60%, we're not going to put the out-of-district candidates on our mailer, but you'll be welcome to use our brand in your own stuff.
Can I say just thank you to everyone? Is that okay? Okay. Thank you, everyone, for giving me your time, for asking your questions. I'm going to put all my information in the chat. If you can support, donate, volunteer, regardless of what happens with the endorsement, of course, I hope I can earn it. Each of you matters. Each of you here matters. And so if you found inspiration today, please support in any way you can. And please reach out to me. I'll put my phone number in the chat as well. Thank you.
Great. Thanks again.